नमस्कार. आधुनिक भारतीय कवितेचा एक समर्थ उद्गार म्हणजे ओडिया भाषेचे अतिशय प्रतिभावान आणि ज्येष्ठ कवी डॉक्टर सीताकांत महापात्र. भुवनेश्वरमधल्या सत्यनगरमधल्या त्यांच्या बैठ्या शांत आणि अतिशय कलात्मक अशा निवासस्थानी येऊन आम्ही कविराजांशी निवांतपणे गप्पा मारत बसलेलो आहोत. आणि हा सुयोग जुळून आलेला आहे डॉक्टर DY पाटील विद्यापीठ पिंपरी पुणे यांच्यामुळे. 89व्या अखिल भारतीय मराठी साहित्य संमेलनाच्या निमित्तानं ज्ञानपीठ पुरस्कार विजेत्या या ज्ञानयोगी मंडळींशी आपण गप्पा मारतो आहोत. निर्मितीमागची त्यांची प्रेरणा जाणून घेतो आहोत आणि आपल्यासारख्या रसिकांच्या दृष्टीनं खरं तर ही अतिशय मोठी अशी पर्वणी आहे. तेव्हा सर्वात पहिल्यांदा आपण त्यांना साहित्य संमेलनाचं निमंत्रण देऊया आणि या संमेलनाला त्यांचे शुभाशीर्वादही घेऊया. सर्वात पहिल्यांदा स्वागत. नमस्कार.
Namaskar. On this occasion, I also remember the earlier Marathi Sahitya Sammelan I attended. It was at Alandi.
Yes.
And it was a great experience for me. So, I am going to repeat this experience. I am aware that the Marathi Sahitya Sammelan is very different from other Sahitya Sammelan. In the 3 days conference, there is footfall of about 2 lakh people.
Yes.
Which is a great occasion for literary discourse, providing opportunity for Marathi people to listen to poets and writers from other languages.
Yes.
In fact, that is the surest way of proving that it is a multicultural, multilingual Bharatvarsh that we are living in.
So please tell us about your literature that is translated in more than 5 to 7 foreign languages: Spanish, German, French, Hebrew, Romanian, Russian.
Yes, but I was telling that 2 languages, foreign languages, it has been luckily translated directly from my mother tongue, that is
Really?
Oriya. One was German, because the German professor Sitakant happened to have worked in Orissa for his research for 7 years, and he knew Oriya enough. And with my help. The other one was into French.
Oh.
French because of a peculiar circumstances. An Oriya girl got married to a French man. And both of them collaborated in translating into French. Her mother tongue being Oriya, and her husband being French. So this collaboration brought it excellently. It has been reviewed in French literary circles that it is reading as if it is originally written in French. So these 2 are very successful translation into foreign languages. In fact, I have been translated into as many as 13 foreign languages. I mentioned only about 2, but this is all the way from Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, Hebrew, and most of the European languages. That is 13. However, I am more proud of my translation into Indian languages.
Yes, sir.
Because when we write poetry, it is for a chosen audience. Primarily, I write for my people,
Yes.
the Oriyas, so that they release the most.
Correct.
And they release not only the language, but also what goes into the making of the poem. Because that is a very intricate subject, but everything, the culture, the history, the physical landscape, everything gets into the poetry.
Yes.
Unless it is local. It cannot become universal. And luckily for me, I feel that it is intensely local, my poems. And possibly because of that reason primarily, it has appealed to others in other languages and has been translated.
We would really like to know from you, when did poetry become an inevitable form of expression for you?
As a matter of fact, it has been now a poet's journey for me for about half a century.
Yes.
Because my first poems were published way back in 1953, when I was in the Ravenshaw College where I had education, and I was the editor of this literary journal. On that occasion I was looking up the old poems and wondering that whether I wrote those poems. It is interesting to look back
Yes,
50
sir.
years to see how was your idiom, what themes you were dealing with.
Yes.
Now these 50 years have been passing through many changes naturally, and I have gone on writing with various developments in my poetic career. At one stage, I was restricting myself more and more to the mythology, particularly of Mahabharata. As a matter of fact, my second anthology of poems was Ashtapadi, which means 8 steps. In that there were poems, one on Kubja, one on Yashoda, and one on Jara.
वेगवेगळ्या आदिवासी जमातींशी IAS ऑफिसर या नात्यानं त्यांचा संबंध आला आणि त्या भाषांचा अभ्यास करून त्यातलं मौखिक साहित्य जतन करण्याच्या दृष्टीनं त्यांनी केलेलं जे कार्य आहे ते अतिशय महत्त्वाचं आहे. आपण त्यांच्याचकडनं ऐकूया.
I had the good fortune of serving as Deputy Commissioner in 2
Yes.
districts which are tribal dominated. They are the Mundas, Santals, Urao, etc. in northern Orissa. I picked up the Santali language. I used to do a very strange practice. Whenever I traveled, I appointed a Santali driver and a peon, that is a class 4, who used to sit in the front, so that I used to talk to him in Santali, not very comfortably, but I was not afraid of committing mistakes. So that is how I picked up the language. And having learnt, I documented their oral poetry, not by sitting and calling calling them there to sing, but during actual performances. The tribals have their, like all Hindus, they have their several festivals during the year. During each festival there is singing and dancing. I called for the songs, what they are singing, because I knew Santali, but Urao I did not know. Munda I could understand a little. So when I looked at the text of the songs, I thought that they are singing poetry without being aware of it. That is what took me to the translation of oral poetry. And that was a great opportunity for me. I started with a small little anthology of their Mundas and Urao poetry. That was the first anthology. Staying is Nowhere.
Yes.
And that was the beginning. Ultimately it went off. The last one was published by the UNESCO in their UNESCO collection of representative works. It was called They Sing Life.
1993 साली ज्ञानपीठ पुरस्कार, कबीर सन्मान, सारला सन्मान, सोव्हिएटलँड नेहरू पुरस्कार, पद्मभूषण, पद्मविभूषण ह्या अशा अनेक आणि सर्वात महत्त्वाचं म्हणजे ज्ञानपीठासोबत साहित्य अकादमी सन्मान अशा प्रकारच्या अनेक सन्मानांनी विभूषित झालेलं हे व्यक्तिमत्व केवळ कवितेच्याच नव्हे तर संशोधन, समीक्षा, ललित लेखन, प्रवास वर्णन आणि त्याचबरोबर मनातल्या विचारांना चिंतनात्मक स्वरूप देणाऱ्या अशा अनेक ग्रंथांच्या माध्यमातून केवळ ओडिसी जनतेलाच नव्हे तर संपूर्ण भारतीय साहित्याला चिरपरिचित असलेलं असं हे नाव आहे. त्यांच्याकडून पुढे ऐकूया.
On my poetry, when the influence I had referred to Jagannath Das's Bhagavata, the other major poet whom I did not mention is a much later poet. He is a blind tribal poet called Bhima Bhoi. Bhima Bhoi, his poems are, many of them have been set to music, and with tambourine, that khanjani, they play. And these prayer songs also during my early days, when in the local temple, I have heard this. Later I have gone back and done for Sahitya Academy, they have a series called Makers of Indian Literature. In that I have done these two major figures who have spoken to me. One is Jagannath Das and one is Bhima Bhoi. Both of them I have done little books, Makers of Indian Literature. And luckily for me, Makers of Indian Literature, which is in English, has been Bhima Bhoi, that has been translated only into Hindi and Marathi.
Could you please state the relation between Indian literature and world literature? How do you see Indian literature in the perspective of world literature?
The problem has been that, as I said in the beginning, Indian literatures I always prefer to say. And when outside they say Indian literature, they will ask, oh, Indian literature, you mean Bengali or Tamil or Hindi, which one? That problem doesn't arise when you speak of Japanese literature or Swedish literature. This is the bane of our problem.
But isn't it our strength as well?
No, it is our strength, but it is also a weakness. When it comes to the international arena, people have started talking about why is it India is never being considered. After Tagore, there is no Nobel laureate.
Yes.
Why? And China has got twice, Mo Yan got later, Japanese have got thrice. Why India is so rich heritage? This possibly, in one interview in Oriya Literary Journal, I have said that possibly one reason is this. A, because actually we have 15 languages. B, absence of competent translation. Surely there is need for better give and take between languages. As chairman National Book Trust for 3 years, I did a lot for promoting such translation in the Adan Pradhan series. There is a series in NBT called Adan Pradhan, from one language to another. To that I had added that from each language we try to publish one major works into English. In that, Suraj Ki Satwaं Ghoda, that has been translated into English.
Yes.
During my stay in that NBT.
Nowadays, everybody is returning his or her own awards, saying that there is less tolerance in the country. Is it the right way of reacting against any system or any thought? Are they doing the right thing, sir, by returning the awards?
Personally, I have not yet thought of returning my awards, because I think that what can be the purpose? If the purpose are that times have been becoming difficult, times have been changing, society is changing, but writers, if they keep writing, the way of expressing dissent is through words. And if you stop writing, that is the worst. If you write, that is the greatest revolution, because you are giving something, a new facet of experience, and you are holding up as a mirror. Your writing is not merely for you. It is not a kind of a monologue. It is a dialogue with society. So, if you produce a book, you hold up the mirror to society. This is how I have lived. Now, if it is for a fashion, it is not worth returning. But speaking generally, it is very difficult to be general about it, because each individual, some of them I know, Uday Prakash I know, I will not take a name, Ashok Bajpayee, and so many of them know. They must have got good reasons for returning. But returning an award, in my view, is neither here nor there. It doesn't change the cultural landscape. If it is intolerance growing in society, by this return, if today I am convinced that my returning books, intolerance will go down a little, tomorrow I will return, but I am not convinced about that. The roots of intolerance are deeper. You have to, the writers, if they are worth the salt, they should explore what is at the root of intolerance. Intolerance was in society all the time. It is not merely in the last 2 years or last 5 years.
You said it, sir.
So, the exploration of the roots of intolerance is more important than a symbolic gesture of return.
जोर जोर से चिल्लाकर तुम्हें पुकारने की क्या जरूरत है प्रभु, असा सवाल करणारा हा कवी. शरदाचं पाणी युद्ध क्षेत्राला पुन्हा एकदा पावन करेल असा संदेश देणारा हा कवी. अत्यंत परखड आणि तितक्याच भावुक शब्दामध्ये जीवनाकडे पाहणारा आणि चिंतनाची एक वेगळी दृष्टी देणारा असा हा श्रेष्ठ कवी. सांगतेच्या या क्षणाला आपण त्यांच्याकडून ओडिया भाषेतली त्यांची एक अतिशय श्रेष्ठ अशी कविता ऐकूया, परछाई.
ओडिया कवितार शीर्षक छाई. लक्ष्य कलेनी अनेक दिन से सेठी छिड़ा होइछि. गोड़पति मुह तलक करी ठीक मो फाटक सामनारे निश्चल मूर्तिटीए परी. चाहिले अनायासरे फाटक खोली भीतर को आसी पारंता, ବାରଣ୍ଡା, ଡ୍ରଇଂ ରୁମ୍ ଟପି ଏମିତିକି ସିଧା ମୋ ଶୋଇବା ଘରେ ପଶି ପାରନ୍ତା। ମୋ ବହି, ମୋ ଖିଆଲ, ମୋ ଅବଶିଷ୍ଟ ଆୟୁଷ, ମୋ ସ୍ୱପ୍ନ ଯାହା ଇଚ୍ଛା ତା ଧରି ଚାଲି ଯାଇ ପାରନ୍ତା। କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ ମୂର୍ଖ ସେମିତି କିଛି କରେନି। ଏମିତିକି ସମ୍ଭ୍ରମ ସ୍ୱରରେ ଆଉ 5 ଜଣଙ୍କ ପରି ବାରଣ୍ଡାକୁ ଉଠି ଆସି ପୂଜାରୀ ବି ଡାକେନି। ଅଥଚ ବାଟ ଭାଙ୍ଗି ଚାଲି ବି ଯାଏନି। ଖରା ତରା ଶୀତ କାକର ସବୁ ସହି ଜହ୍ନରାତିରେ ପାଳଭୂତ ପରି ସେଇଠି ସେମିତି ଛିଡ଼ା ହୋଇ ରହେ। ଫାଟକ ଖୋଲେନି ସିନା, କିନ୍ତୁ କି କିମିଆ ସେ ଜାଣେ କେଜାଣି ମୋର ସବୁ ସ୍ୱପ୍ନରେ ଆସି ହାଜର ହୋଇଯାଏ। ଆଉ ତାପରେ ପୁଅ, ଝିଅ, ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ, ନିଜେ ମୁଁ ସାମ୍ନା ସାମ୍ନି ଚୌକିରେ ବସି ଚାହା ପିଇଲା ବେଳେ ବି ଲାଗେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଆମେ ଶୂନ୍ୟ ନୀଳରେ ଜୁଳୁଜୁଳୁ ନକ୍ଷତ୍ର। ସବୁ କଥାଭାଷା ହଠାତ୍ ଖାପଛଡ଼ା ଲାଗେ। କଥା ପଦେ ସାରିବା ଆଗରୁ ଅନ୍ୟମନସ୍କ ହୋଇ ମୁଁ ଚୁପ୍ ହୋଇଯାଏ। ତାରି ଡରରେ କି କ'ଣ ଯେଉଁ ଚଢ଼େଇ ଘର ସାମ୍ନା ଗଛ ଡାଳରେ ବସି କେତେ ଗୀତ ବୋଲୁଥିଲେ ଓ ମୁଁ ବିଚାରୁଥିଲି ସେମାନେ ଗୀତ ବୋଲୁଛନ୍ତି ଖାସ୍ ମୋହରି ପାଇଁ। ସେମାନେ କୁଆଡ଼େ ଉଡ଼ି ପଳାନ୍ତି। ଗଛଲତାମାନେ ଦୁର୍ବଳ ଶୁଖିଲା ଦୁଶନ୍ତି। ଜହ୍ନ ଆଲୁଅ ବି ନିଷ୍ପ୍ରଭ ସେତା ଦୁଶେ। ଲାଗେ ଆଉ କିଛି ଦିନ ଯଦି ସେ ସେମିତି ଛିଡ଼ା ହୋଇ ରହେ ତେବେ ଜହ୍ନ ପୁରାପୁରି କଳା ପଡ଼ିଯିବ। ଚଢ଼େଇମାନେ ଗୀତ ଭୁଲିଯିବେ। ଗଛଲତା ଶୁଖି ମରିଯିବେ। ଶବ୍ଦ ସବୁ କୁଆଡ଼େ ନିଶ୍ଚିହ୍ନ ହୋଇଯିବେ। ଚାକର ବାକର ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ପିଲା ଯାହାଙ୍କୁ ପଚାରିଲେ ସେମାନେ କହନ୍ତି କାହିଁ? ଫାଟକ ପାଖରେ ଫୁଙ୍ଗୁଳା ପବନ ଛଡ଼ା ଆଉ ତ କେହି ନାହିଁ। ମୁଁ କେତେ ଉପାୟ ଫାନ୍ଦେ। ଆଦରରେ ତାକୁ ଅତିଥି କରି ଘର ଭିତରକୁ ଡାକି ଆଣିମି। ଆଉ ସେଥିରେ ନିଷ୍ଫଳ ହେଲେ ଧମକେଇ ଚମକେଇ ଶତ୍ରୁ ପରି ଘଉଡ଼ାଇ ଦେବି। କିନ୍ତୁ କିଛି କାମ କରେନି। କି ରାତି କି ଦିନ, କି ଆଷାଢ଼ କି ଫଗୁଣ, ତଳକୁ ମୁଣ୍ଡ ପୋତି ସ୍ୱପ୍ନରେ ଦେଖିଥିବା ସ୍ୱପ୍ନ ପରି ସେ ସେଇଠି सेमती छेड़ा हुई रहे।
डॉक्टर सीताकांत महापात्र यांचा जन्म 17 सप्टेंबर 1937 रोजी झाला. श्रेष्ठ कवी, ललित निबंधकार, प्रवास वर्णनकार, भाषांतरकार, साहित्य आणि संस्कृती विषयक चिंतनपर लेखन अशी विपुल साहित्य निर्मिती आजवर त्यांनी केलेली आहे. त्याचप्रमाणे आदिवासी मौखिक परंपरेचे संशोधक म्हणूनही ते ख्यातीप्राप्त आहेत. 1961 ते 95 पर्यंत भारतीय प्रशासकीय सेवेत ते कार्यरत होते. 21 कविता संग्रह, 9 निबंध संग्रह, 4 प्रवास वर्णने, आदिवासी सांथाळ भाषेतील मौखिक काव्य परंपरेवर संशोधनपर लेख प्रकाशित झालेले आहेत. त्यांच्या अनेक कवितांचे भारतीय आणि विदेशी भाषांमध्ये अनुवाद प्रसिद्ध झालेले आहेत. त्यांच्या काही विख्यात साहित्य कृतींमध्ये समय का शेष नाम, लौट आने का समय, शब्द राकाश, 30 कविता वर्ष, कपट पासा, अनेक शरत, पदचिन्ह, शब्द, समय और संस्कृती. 1975 ते 77 या काळात होमी भाभा फेलोशिप अंतर्गत त्यांनी संशोधनपर कार्य केलेलं आहे. तसंच नॅशनल बुक ट्रस्टचे चेअरमन म्हणूनही त्यांनी काम पाहिलेलं आहे. आजपर्यंत अनेक सन्मानांनी डॉक्टर सीताकांत महापात्र सन्मानित झालेले आहेत. 1974 साली शब्दर आकाश या काव्य संग्रहास साहित्य अकादमी ओरिसा सन्मान प्राप्त झाला. 1983 ला सोव्हिएट लँड नेहरू पुरस्कारानं ते सन्मानित झाले. 1984 साली सारला पुरस्कारानं ते सन्मानित झाले. 1993 ला भारतीय ज्ञानपीठ पुरस्कार त्यांना प्राप्त झाला. 2001 ला कबीर सन्मान त्यांना प्राप्त झाला. 2002 ला पद्मभूषण आणि 2010 ला पद्मविभूषण पुरस्कारांनी ते सन्मानित झाले. याशिवाय साहित्य अकादमी पुरस्कार नवी दिल्ली यांनाही ते सन्मानित झाले. कुमारन आशान पोएट्री सन्मानही त्यांना प्राप्त झाला. तसंच विशुव सन्मानही त्यांना प्राप्त झालेला आहे. अशा अनेक सन्मानांनी डॉक्टर सीताकांत महापात्र विभूषित झालेले आहेत. त्यांना आमचा मानाचा मुजरा.